Okay, so I guess we'll just start by saying welcome to my first video diary. I've been asked a lot of times by just friends and people that I randomly meet that are my friends' friends why I don't have a podcast or why I don't talk in public. I'm a very private person, but my job or my career path that I've chosen for myself is making it so that I become more visible to the public, which is or being seen. I have a problem with being seen. So instead of hiding behind a mic, I've turned on the camera and currently sitting in my garage in my car in poorly dimmed lighting because this is the quietest place I can do this in. And honestly, just the raw, authentic truth about it is that this makes me uncomfortable, but we're just going to do it anyway. The topic that I've been thinking a lot about recently is dating in my late 20s and why I've decided to be celibate. And honestly, the hard truth and facts about what it means to be single and realize that there's a lot of people in your general vicinity that are going to be getting married at this age or having kids or in a relationship and actively choosing to be single in a time where I think people are confused on why you would choose to actively be single. It kind of might be a hard concept for people to grasp at this time, but I'm not here to justify it. I'm not here to glorify it. I'm just here to talk about my experience and how it led me here. Um, First, I want to say that I'm not opposed to falling in love. I'm not scared to fall in love anymore. Um, I'm not worried about being single anymore, and I'm not worried that I won't have time for kids or that I won't have time to build a family when in actuality, I feel like I have so much time and so many things that I want to do personally that I thinking of a relationship at this time, I don't want to say is overwhelming, but it doesn't seem like my priority at this time. So, let me just start by saying what really got me into this spot is heartbreak and letting go of a certain heartbreak. So, story time. When I was 26, or actually when I was 25, prior to that, I had been in a long term relationship since I was 21. And me and that person had built up a life together where we had two dogs, we had an apartment, we shared all the utilities, the rent, all the expenses, and we had great jobs. I was a marketing director for a large company in the Phoenix area, and he was an engineer, and we looked great on paper, but we were just not great. There just wasn't that continuous spark or where you think you're doing everything right, you're going in the right direction, and one day you just realize that one, you've grown apart, and two, the relationship probably was never created on a proper foundation. And realizing a lot of these things marked it as me realizing that I didn't create a solid foundation with myself or who I thought I was as a person. And I was just check boxing. I was marking boxes off that made sense. And I had the job and I had the income and I had the boyfriend and I had the amazing life on paper where I was traveling all the time and but I felt no sense of purpose. My job was my purpose. I was working nonstop from the time I woke up to the time that I would go to sleep. I had an extremely toxic work environment, and the only thing that I can be thankful of that is that experience, and that I now have one of the best friends that I could have ever imagined coming out of that toxic work environment. But all in all, what I realized in that time was that I wasn't being true to myself. I was chasing a dream, a bag that wasn't mine. And I was holding on to a relationship that I didn't want anymore. And the person seemed like he checked a lot of my boxes, but in reality, I was really just settling for the kind of relationship I thought we had. And I didn't give myself time to address that I was people pleasing and that I was settling not only in work, or not only in my relationship, but I was settling in all aspects of my life where I was shrinking myself and not allowing myself to be who I am today. Um, and that kind of catapulted me into figuring out who that was. And so at 25, I broke up with my long-term boyfriend. I quit my job. I went back to school to get my master's in psychology, and I became a preschool teacher, which I never thought was something that I would want to do or would be good at. Um, but the light just turned off. Great. Um, oh well, we'll start from here. Even worse lighting, but it's fine. Um, but honestly, being a preschool teacher and changing my career path into something that was more fulfilling for myself was one of the best things that I could have possibly done. And in that time, I had I had this long-term crush on somebody that I had met when I was in a relationship with my boyfriend at the time. And the reason I never did anything or said anything was because they knew each other. And obviously, being in a relationship, I wasn't going to, go after it. But after I had ended it properly, I had taken some time to think about it. I let that person know that I was interested in them. And that person was also leaving their long term relationship, and kind of in similar boats where he wasn't really happy with his job and I wasn't really happy with mine. And in the process, we both acknowledged that we were attracted to each other, that there was something there, but we weren't ready to move forward with that. Personally, I think we both needed time to grow, but just putting it out there, just making the first step to even telling somebody how I felt about them was huge for me. Um, and even choosing to put myself out there, even when there was the thought of being rejected, didn't really cross my mind. And so every moment that I was being rejected from anything else, it felt fine. I felt great to have been made that my first move into becoming who I really am, when I finally acknowledged that the person that I was telling these things to, that I had feelings for them, um, kind of was the catalyst to me making every other decision on that. So, why I bring that up is because this person was very, very, and continues to be very special to me. And I haven't given myself the time to talk about him. And I feel like that's a huge part of healing. And when it comes to dating, um, at first, when I would try to date afterwards, after everything happened with him, and just to say, I don't want to like go into super, super much detail because I feel like that's a completely different uh kind of video or different diary, but it was the overall experience of finally letting myself feel into something, be honest with somebody, not care about the consequences, not be performative, just allowing myself to be myself and interact with this person freely, we decided to become friends. And we were still at a distance from each other. And I don't think, well, I don't want to say on his part, but for me, I really thought that because of the connection we had, that this was probably the person that I was going to marry, if anything. Or I should say, I had never thought about the idea of marriage seriously or having kids with somebody until this person, until I realized that what I wanted out of a connection was what we had, which was a built up friendship, which was um, a mutual, like, craving for real authentic life, and that we both were in similar positions in life to where we just understood each other. I didn't feel like it was trauma bonding because there wasn't a lot of that going on. I think we really learned how to support each other as friends. And because I already had romantic feelings, I feel like it ultimately came down to the decision of, do I continue this with knowing that the other person needs time to heal as well as myself? Or do we cut it here and just be grateful for the time that we had together? So essentially, I hate to use the word, but it was like being in a situationship that I didn't know was happening until it was too late. And we both had completely different ideas about what we were doing and how we were proceeding, because there wasn't really any rule book or anything that we could go off of, or how do we navigate through this. And being still in our like mid 20s and struggling with relationships and struggling with what a healthy relationship looks like, I ultimately we both decided to just let each other go, with obviously some drama and turmoil in between that. But I don't regret the time that I spent with him. And I realized now how much of that was a true healing process for me. And um sorry, I just got a DM from somebody I've been wanting to work with for a really long time. So that's great. Um anyways, to summarize all of that, the reason why I don't go so much into detail with that is because it's another person's story too. And I feel like I don't want to create the narrative that they were this or they were that, or just all in all, he was my best friend. He was there for me at times that I really needed him. And then there were times where it wasn't appropriate for him to be there for me like that. And I wanted more out of that relationship than what was currently being presented. And to honor both of our healing process, we let each other go because it wasn't something that you can hold on to. But the whole experience has led me to where I am today in how I feel about love, and how it's transitioned me from the heartbreak of letting something go, even though you really love it, you really love everything about it, but it just might not be what's good for you. And deciding to step out of that and know that you're choosing yourself. And that's hard in its own. And so dating at 28 with that experience in mind has really shaped it so that I don't settle. I can't settle. I've tried dating. I went through a period where I did the dating app. I played the game. I played the fucking game. I played it very well, may I add, to where I was casually dating. I was truthful and honest with the men that I was dating. I also was in a much bigger city. I lived in Chicago for 2 years basically. And that was another thing, is I moved from Arizona to Illinois right after I decided that I was going back to school for my master's. I got a job in Chicago, found a place, and decided that was going to be it, that I was going to be there for 2 years. So being there while doing my master's and not knowing anybody else, not really understanding what was going to happen next, but I knew I wanted to be there and that was a choice I wanted because I had been in the hot, hot fucking summers here and I just wanted to experience seasons. I wanted to experience snow and I wanted to experience fall and all of the good things and having the lake and the beach fronts just right there and having the forest and the trees and everything that I never had, I was giving to myself. And in that process of learning, I went on dating apps, I met strangers, met men that I would normally have not really dated or taken the time to get to know. But while being in a bigger city, it was easier to detach from the idea of wanting a relationship and more about the experience of what I wanted to learn about myself. So, after everything that happened in the situationship, um, I decided that I wanted to take a break from dating. I wanted to take a break from relationships. I wanted to focus on myself. And so, in a way, I decided to date using the app because of how detached I would be from the process. And going into it, I wanted to see how I would react to certain men, how I would perceive certain things, or I just wanted to learn about my shadow side, about the things that I wasn't allowing myself to have and the experiences I was limiting myself to. So, dating and going on dates and getting pampered and getting ready for those was really fun and allowing men to take care of me in ways that I wasn't used to, or finding that I was giving myself to the wrong people and I was giving myself up to certain opportunities that didn't align with me. And so figuring out what I wanted out of a relationship and figuring out who I wanted or what qualities I had in myself that I also wanted in a partner was very important. But I wouldn't have figured those things out if I hadn't gone on dates, if I hadn't gone and learned that it's okay to reject people, but you can do it authentically and you can do it and give people a chance without giving them your all. I used to rush into relationships. I used to rush and be completely absorbed and obsessed in the relationship and just give my all. And through dating, I realized that there is a happy medium to everything and that you can take your time. And honestly, what I really learned about myself was that the type of partner I wanted and the type of person that I was being weren't aligning. So, if I really wanted somebody that was a provider or who took care of me in ways that traditionally I would think that a man would uphold, then I also had to make sure that I had my boundaries up, that I knew what my self worth was, that I was confident in who I was, and that I wasn't limiting myself to these things only because that they were available to me at the time. So when I was dating, I a little bit went into like my dark feminine energy and I just didn't give a fuck about their feelings so much. It was more about, did I enjoy their company? What am I getting out of it? Kind of thing. Not in a toxic way because I was still very respectful of their time and I generally was giving these guys um like my full attention. It just was, if I wasn't feeling something, I was honest about it. And if I felt like it wasn't going to move forward, I was honest about it. And it really just taught me to use my discernment and just learning that also dating men and dating women is completely different. I'm bisexual, so I've only at this point have dated men and had relationships with men. And so even now in my late 20s, I'm recognizing that I do want to explore dating women, but I also have found in myself that I want to be in a relationship with a man at this point. And the reason I say that is because men and women love differently. And for me, I like to be the more feminine energy, not to say that women can't be in that, but there's just a certain traditional sense of life that I want that I won't be able to have in in a woman to woman relationship is the best way I can explain it. And having that in mind and recognizing that I do want a traditional relationship with the experience of being open to non-traditional relationships at this time at where I am because I'm not committed and I don't have um like I'm not with anybody at this time. So exploring and finding who I am at that time is kind of like the whole gist of it. So when I was experiencing these dates and going on, they were kind of overlapping. So I was dating, I would talk to men for maybe, or I would talk to one guy and see how that went. I would still be open to other connections and I was honest with them and would say like you can completely do the same. Whatever you're looking for, let like be honest with me, whatever you're looking for, I'll be honest with you what I'm looking for and then we'll just like see like where we're clicking from there. But I never in my head was thinking I'm going to find the love of my life through this fucking app. I was generally like I'm going to find the experiences that I want to experience here and I'm not going to judge myself for it. So that's what I personally did. And I have a lot of friends that just female friends in general that ask me, like some of my friends are recently divorced or recently out of relationships or um, recently single and have no idea where to start and have been looking to me for advice. And honestly, if you're in that same boat, which I'm still in because I have not like been thinking about being in a relationship recently, but I have been trying to let myself be reciprocating or in the receiving mode of like if new love did come and it wasn't like my last situationship which like fucked me up but taught me a lot of good lessons, then I would be open to it. I would be completely open to it um and that's all I've been at because I feel like I can't force anything. At this point, I'm like, I'm not forcing anything. Everything happens for a reason. Um, like dating will just happen when it happens. But dating, I feel like is different than waiting on love and waiting for the universe to give me what I've been asking for or being in receiving mode and dating is completely different. So I feel like dating has been this thing for me where it's a lot of learning and a lot of me, like figuring out where I am with it. And if you're struggling with it and figuring out that you don't want to be on a dating app, then don't be on the dating app, baby. Like, if it is genuinely not for you, but I have told people do it. Have the experience, know what you like and don't like, so that when someone asks you or when you're looking for it, you've built up your discernment. And so, a lot of times, that's all dating is building up your discernment. And if you haven't found the right person or they haven't found you, well, honey, it's just not the time. And that's fine. Like, we just have to be okay with the fact that divine timing is going to happen when divine timing decides it is. Like, we have no control over the outside influences of anything. And all we have to do is to control ourselves, how we behave, how we act, and take accountability for us. And that's honestly my 2 cents about it. So, yeah, this has become a really long video. So I'm going to end it here with saying if you're struggling with being the idea of being alone or dating in your late 20s or dating in general or whatever, starting over doesn't have to be scary. Starting over can be the best thing that you do for yourself and for the outcome of your life because if you didn't like it, that's fine. The whole idea of being here on planet Earth is that these experiences aren't limited to what we experience on ourselves. So that's to say, everything outside of us could be whatever the fuck we want it to be if we decide that that's the reality that we want. So for me, I did not want to be in a loveless relationship for the rest of my life in a place that in my hometown or in my home state. I still want to experience outside of myself, and that's never going to stop. And I'm never going to want to stop doing that. But to find somebody that's going to do that with me for the rest of my life, I'm willing to wait for that. And until then, I have decided to be celibate. I have decided to never settle. But that does not mean that I'm closed off to the idea of new love. So there is love after love, as my girl Cher likes to say, and just be open to receiving if that's where you're at. And if not, and you're still harboring heartbreak, let yourself feel that. For me, as somebody that harbors a lot of my emotions internally, I've had to physically get myself to do things. So even going to yoga and allowing that release in my hips has made it so that I can feel what I need to feel and resolve what I need to resolve with everything that happened in my past heartbreaks and past relationships. And I don't want those things to affect the new foundation that I want to build with somebody when the time is right. So right now, it's just me, myself, and I'm getting me, myself, and I good. And that's about it. So if you're having a hard time with that, if you're learning your own discernment, give yourself time. Be gentle with yourself because it's an ongoing process. And honestly, life is fucking difficult. So don't make it even more difficult for yourself by judging yourself at this time. And just know that once you know what you want, you'll just start to align to it. And putting so much pressure on yourself to be perfect or to have these things checked off on your bucket list or whatever, you can't do it on a person, but you can definitely bucket list going to Hawaii or going abroad or whatever. But those are things that you can control and handle. And your love life is just something that you're going to have to navigate through. And that's just the 2 cents that I've had at 28. So we'll see how I feel at 29 or if I meet that person, whatever. But I will leave it on a high note that I woke up this morning after having a dream of me meeting a man that I've never seen in my life. And it was a very pleasant dream. And I was like, oh, this must mean that I really am opening up to the idea of new love. And I wasn't dreaming about my situationship. And that's a fucking good sign of healing. So, yeah, I'm using that as a win. So, you use whatever the fuck you want to use as a win. And I'll see you in my next video diaries.